So I took my differential from my LX V6 1991 Ford Probe H series manual transaxle, and I took it to work and plasma cut all of the bolts off of the ring, or their rivets off the ring gear, and separated the ring gear from the diff. So I have the H series LX ring gear that matches the LX final drive that I'm putting into my GT case, and I have this ring gear ready to bolt onto my M Factory helical LSD that's currently sitting in the transaxle for this piece of crap. And I got the ring gear done. It's got the inside edge, it's got a little bit of surface rust, but otherwise it's perfect, no chipping or anything like that. So this will be going into the trans here soon when I get it pulled out of the red probe, and the trans issue will be fixed, because that one I'm pulling the shift selector and everything out to clean underneath of it, making sure there's absolutely zero metal or debris in this trans before I put it together. I'm putting a new fifth and reverse lock nut for the fifth and reverse gear clusters on the outside of the tranny case under the access plate. That will be those will be new, torqued to spec to set the preload properly and everything on the trans. New diff bearings. I've got the races and bearings and shims that match the LX probe trans bearings and everything. So I've got all that ready to go into the GT case, so it'll have matching bearings and races and everything, because I don't want to change all the bearings out on the trans. I don't want to get into another rebuild. I just want to slap it together and have it work. The synchros look amazing, as you saw in the previous videos. So I will be very soon, hopefully, putting this all together. I'm going to put another set of pistons and rods in this block. It'll be like the 6th time that I've rehoned it and put in new pistons, so I don't expect that they're going to last very long. But I'm going to use actual turbo hypereutectic pistons this time, instead of the cast LX higher compression pistons that I've been using out of a non-turbo Mazda F2 engine, which have no skirt reinforcement and are cast instead of hypereutectic. So hopefully the lower compression of the factory 7.8 to 1 turbo pistons over the stock 7.8 to 1 hypereutectic pistons is going to make a difference in getting this engine to hold together a little bit longer, so I can go out there and send it on 30 pounds in a hull set one time before I get rid of it. The point being that I'm going to get rid of this car. I mean, I've put so much work into it, as everybody has seen. I've put so much time into it, as everybody has seen. I mean, I've done engines, I've done transaxles, I've done everything that you can possibly imagine, and this thing is always broken. Always. And that's the reason why I'm going to move on to something else. But I am going to try and send it at its full potential, launch control working, flat shift working, on wrinkle wall slicks, with the new final drive, longer final drive and gearing, and still be LSD. You know, try and maybe get the weight down on the car, pull the rear seats out, I don't know. But I'm going to try and get this thing to actually run a solid pass, and maybe get, you know, a mid 11 or high 10 even, dreaming, but I can try. And I'm going to do that this final time to make sure that I at least gave it everything she had before I get rid of it. If it breaks again, I won't be fixing it again. I'll just be getting rid of it. But if it holds together, it's going to put down a number. So I'm hoping that here really soon it's going to happen as far as getting everything together. I just can't pull the tranny and shit out in my house. It's like 19 degrees out. I'm not doing it outside. I got to wait for my buddy's garage to become available, which means putting a set of lifters in the probe that I just finished putting an engine together for that had zero compression, and it runs now but the lifters are dead and it seems to have an ignition issue, but I've got to change the lifters out first to make sure they're not a problem. And then I've got another 89 Probe GT that belongs to my buddy, the one I just finished just for his dad. And then I've got one for my buddy that I put an engine together for, but I got to put a tranny on it, turbo system, and then drop it in the car. So all that has got to happen before I can get this into that garage. I have another possibility with my buddy Brian, who's got a badass LS1 Trans Am. He's got a shop with a lift and everything, and if his opens up first, I'll go there, but I've got to do it inside. I'm getting too old for this, doing it in the snow, doing it in the driveway with the leaves blowing around 19 degrees outside. I'm not going to do it. So you guys will just have to be patient. I'm going to keep trying to get content out, keep trying to find stuff to do, but just bear with me. All right, so I've got the gear set, shift forks, everything together. I pulled the shift selector rod out to make sure that in this little pocket underneath it, where it goes through to the shift gate, which controls the shift fork or shift arms with shift forks on them. I always make sure that there's no metal debris because the magnet's right here. So it attracts a lot of debris to this area, which I'm pretty sure is why my current trans is locked up in the probe. Because I imagine there was a big chunk of metal in there that somehow I missed when I did the tranny before because I never pulled the shift selector out like I should have. Well, I just found this stuff in there from... This is the GT case with the LX gears, and that was the GT internals that were in it. Well, I sold that to a friend of mine years ago for this GT trans because he blew the diff up. So I sold him a case, reused all of his gears, and rebuilt him a diff and put it in there. Well, when I bought the car back from him, which was that black 626 I think I did a video on, I stripped everything out of it, including that same tranny. Well, when he put the new internals into this case, they brought some debris with them. So, not to mention that the spider gears were broken on the diff, which I have since pulled apart, and it's got some really nice, pretty much brand new spider gears in it. So it's a nice fresh stock diff ready to go again. It's going to go into the tranny that's currently in my probe. And then the M factory out of that's going to go into this, and this is going to go into the probe with the LX gears. In the previous part of this video, you saw that I got the ring gear cut off and ready to go on the M factory. All the bearings, races, and shims are all matching. Everything's all matching, so here pretty soon I will have a half-mile geared trans for the probe. And it'll be making some stink. So stay tuned for that. And this was part 2 of the Mazda H-Series build. Subscribe, like, share, do whatever you want. Thanks for watching. And now that all the debris is cleaned out, we put the shift selector rod back in. And now it's time to put on the shift gate. You call it the shift gate because it's gated and it actually controls the movement of the shift forks. This again is the one out of the HX or the LX Series H Series, LX model H Series trans, so it'll match up to these shift forks. So here we have an assembled LX H Series transaxle guts inside of a GT case. The reverse shift selector's in, reverse gear's in, the shift selector rod is in, the shift gate is in, and basically when you're moving through stuff, going into other gears, that's what it's doing, is you're doing that and then pulling or pushing to move it up or down. So you pull it, see how it moves it up and down, and then when you twist it, it moves it from side to side. So this thing is ready to go once I get the differential in there, and then can put the case halves together, put the fifth and reverse cluster in, and I'll have a tranny ready to go for the race car.